Well, what a surprise that was. West Ham United 1, Liverpool FC 5 at Anfield. I said 6-0, so my correct prediction of 6 goals, or my correct prediction of 6 goals was correct. Just absolutely bowled over with surprise about the fact that West Ham United managed to get one of them. I'm delighted to say that on this little bonus midweek podcast, it's not me and James Jones, but it's me and Alex Smith of new We Are West Ham signing infamy. Very much like been employing the David Moyes, the sort of like the David Moyes approach with the new signing, embedded him in slowly, like getting him in, doing some of the background work first before throwing him in at the deep end on the pod. But Alex showed far more commitment to our beloved West Ham than either me or James Jones last night when he went all the way up to Anfield and returned in the early wee hours of the morning. So I thought, what better time to get him on the pod to let us know about the joys of the Northwest and watching West Ham get hammered in the Carabao Cup in the middle of the week. Alex, great to have you on the pod, mate. I don't really know where to start. How tired are you?
Tired. I got back at 4 a.m. Conceded a goal every hour it took me to get there, which isn't great. Yeah, it was a disappointing day, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what were you expecting?
I mean, when the second a draw comes out, you just think, oh well, that's us out, isn't it? And then you sort of get a little bit of hope on your way out there naturally, don't you? You always think, oh, could this be the time? I haven't won this in the last 10 years, like 4 times in our club history, but then you always had that little smidge of hope. And then we thought we actually started the game all right. Obviously got a bit of a fortunate goal. And then, then things just when that first goal, and I sort of looked on my phone and saw, people's messages going offside. And you just go, oh, well, it's not going to be our day, is it? It's just not going to
happen. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I'm a West Ham podcast host, so one may be entitled to think that a person in such a position would watch every single West Ham game it's possible to watch. I'm also 32 though, and have watched more than my fair share of West Ham games in my life, both in the flesh and on television. And you know what, mate? I just gave myself a night off. I thought, well, Alex is there representing the pod. James will be watching it on telly, so we've got both of those angles covered. I can afford to sit this one out because it's going to be grim. You sort of said yourself that you sit somewhere between me and James on the bickering that we did on the podcast earlier in the week about style of play and what we've seen, and on the We Are West Ham group chat last night, you sort of said, it wasn't necessarily terrible, but we lost 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the scoreline is very, very harsh. I mean, our goal is fortunate, obviously. I mean, it's a comical own goal, isn't it? But if you look at the overall game, we were in it at 70 minutes, which is decent away from home against
what a bleak outlook on football. If we're still not totally out of sight with the other team fresh after 70 minutes, that's good. You're full in the James Jones school, mate.
Oh, we had chances at 2-1 to make it 2-2, and I think that if we get one of the penalty shouts, if we had a couple of harsh shots with Max Kilman deciding not to shoot, just sort of stumbling his way through the 6-yard box, you've got to take your chances when you get them at Anfield. And I thought Liverpool did, we didn't.
Yeah.
When they're bringing on Salah off the bench in a cup game.
Not fair, really, is it?
Yeah, he makes it 3-1, and then again you're sort of the ALVAREZ red card then kills us and makes it 5-1. If that makes sense. They were in at 2-1, probably should have been 2-2. Another day, I think they probably do make it 2-2. Then the 3-1 goes, and you're just like, well, we've lost, but let's keep it sort of there or thereabouts, maybe sneak a consolation. Then we just sort of capitulate and go down to 10, and the heads drop, and it's Lopetegui gets injured. It's just last 10 minutes is absolute disaster. But I think for 70 minutes, I thought we didn't match them, but we weren't far off, which is decent. Considering I was happier with performance there than I was against Fulham, against Chelsea.
Right.
Far worse. This one was it was a bit like the City game. We sort of played all right in spells, but in the end, edge quality was just a little bit better.
Just not enough. Yeah. I mean, that's just quite West Ham, that, isn't it? For you normally get, so and so's left the stadium on crutches, and we're like, none of our players put enough in to leave on crutches, but our manager, some of managed to do his hammy on the touchline. Right, in the interest of balance, right, and not taking advantage and trying to mould you into either the James Jones or the Will Pugh school of thought so far this season. Give me 2 positives and 2 negatives from last night. And unfortunately, you cannot include the 10 or so hours you spent in the car traveling there and back.
Let's start with a negative, shall we? Alvarez red card is, really, he lost his head completely when we didn't get the penalty. I don't know if the cameras picked it up from Sky, but he charged over to the referee, and he was already on the yellow then, I think, and it was like, he could go for dissent there. I think he just completely lost his head, and he's got that in him, hasn't he? He's a yellow card merchant at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And for him just to unnecessarily wipe out Salah ahead of what is a massive game against Brentford, the game he really needs to be picking up something, is disappointing because he's almost sort of irreplaceable, isn't he, in that midfield? He doesn't quite Souček's Rodriguez.
So I've got this right. He's missing. He misses that.
I believe he misses Brentford. Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, that makes a bit of a mockery of a couple of podcast before appearances I've done today. When asked who my potential team is, and I've been saying Alvarez.
Maybe I'm looking like an idiot, but the other.
Of course, it would make sense, wouldn't it, for domestic competition? Yeah.
Another negative, just our overall sort of defending is still quite bad, isn't it? We just can't seem to stop leaking goals. Like that ball, the ball down in behind our defence still looks a bit of a problem. I thought we were better.
What you mean, the basic straight pass down the pitch,
slightly fast forward. It's still a bit of a problem, but it was better. I thought we looked a little bit better in closing down that ball, but that's still just for defence. You still look a little bit all over the place, don't we? Positives. I say one thing that probably hasn't been spoken about too much, and it is a positive of Lopetegui so far, is we've been passing that from the back quite well. Like we've been.
So where though?
That is exactly. We get sort of to the final third, then have no idea what to do, but sort of we knock it about in our own half, and sort of instead of just sort of the aimless coup foul down the line hoof to Antonio. So that's no more, and it's sort of we can play out a bit more with Todibo and Kilman. I think that looked good. Another positive, probably a couple of decent individual performances. Summerfield looked lively again. Bowen probably a little bit better than he has been in recent weeks. Looked all right. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sort of bowled over by your 2 positives there, mate, I must admit. But what was the atmosphere like? Obviously, an absolutely admirable showing from the Claret and Blue Army. 5,500 odd fans up there. What was the sort of feeling among the fans?
It's not, the atmosphere was decent at away games, isn't it? And we, especially with a big following like that, with the protest as well, with the balloons, with the big banner, and that sort of got everyone up sort of up. It was good. It was a good atmosphere, to be fair. And it sort of swiftly dies out, and when the third one goes in, people start heading to the exits, and people spend more time, to be fair, looking around at Liverpool fans, giving them stick rather than watching the game at that point. I don't blame them, to be fair.
Yeah. What time did you leave then? As in, did you wait for the 90 minutes?
Oh, no, just wait to the end. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
You come all that way. What's the point in rushing off?
Well, the fact that you got home at 4 o'clock in the morning.
3:34. What does it matter at that point?
Yeah, I suppose, mate. I suppose. Yeah. What was sort of much chat or sort of noise at all around Lopetegui? Obviously, the chat on the podcast this week, not as far as saying Lopetegui out. I was obviously being facetious when I text James at the weekend before the 3 of us met up afterwards and had a pint and a debrief. But what's the general? Was there sort of much chat among the fans about what's going on?
I think people have got no idea what our best team is really, and I think ignore Lopetegui. I think
yeah.
I think I think people are willing to give him a chance, and it's it has what will be 7 games in, and but the thing is we've got Brentford and Ipswich to come, and that's sort of a minimum 4. You sort of really want 6 points there, and I think if you imagine if we only get 1 point or we get nothing from those 2, then pressure's really going to start mounting. I think people are willing to give him a couple more weeks and sort of try not to be too reactionary or judgmental for the time being. But we've got to be.
Apart from me.
we've got to be starting to pick up points and actually looking better as well, which we have done it spells, but not for a whole 90 minutes.
No, quite. Well, look, just anyone listening, just so you're aware, this podcast, if you're listening on a pod rather than watching on YouTube, this podcast is a combo, a little bit of a Liverpool reaction with Alex now. And I spoke to Talk Sports' very own Natalie Sawyer, big Brentford fan, ahead of Saturday's trip to Brentford as well. So we'll have a little bit more with me and Alex on the Liverpool game next, and then after that in part 2 will be Nat Sawyer, and that will take you to the end of this podcast. So you mentioned Todibo there, Alex. A few people sort of keen to see him play, me one of them, to be quite honest. Mavropanos obviously the other centre half alongside Kilman. How did he look, and are you sort of that same school of thought that why isn't he playing the Prem?
Yeah, I think if the rumours going about he's not quite fit enough to play the whole 90 yet, if he did last night. I think he looks good on the ball, maybe slightly overconfident sort of player. You're going to have to get used to, because he just sort of start dribbling on the edge of your own box, and it sort of, sort of goes, oh my god. He's just sort of managed to quickly find, but he looks very composed on the ball and assured. Defensively, how good he's going to be when balls are flying into the box and that sort of stuff. That's what I'm not sure about yet. Time will tell us. If Mavropanos, I think we always say, I think everyone says it about how he looks very good for 75 minutes and then shock him for 15, and you get punished in your league for doing that. So I think it's time for Todibo to come in.
Well,
he deserves a chance. Mavropanos he's been a bit shaky in the last couple.
Yeah. My thoughts with Mavropanos are that he looks imperious for like 89 minutes of a game. And then there's just always that one total head loss, which is like leads to a guaranteed dead cert goal every time. But yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, I have got ultimate respect for you going like that, because it was only ever going to be a hiding, really. What did you? Were there any sort of bright spots? I mean, Cresswell and Ings came in. Fabianski, obviously. Was there anyone who particularly stood out for you as played particularly well or poorly?
I think if you're looking at probably who our best player was, obviously Bowen's always up there, isn't he? He thought he looked quite lively, and so Somerville again. I thought when he looked
promising that.
He looks promising. Like when he can dribble up players, he seems to have pace. That sort of, there is a chance he gets pushed off the ball because he's so small. But I like the way he sort of offers something on the counter, can bring the dribblers up the pitch. Seems to work relatively hard defensively as well. And I think he's probably one of the stand-up players from the last 2 poor performances. He's sort of been a bright spark in it. But the question then remains of like, well, where does he fit in? Because Bowen has to start, Kudus has to start, Paqueta has to start. And then do you put Bowen up front to facilitate some of it? I've got no idea.
No, well, I liked Bowen up front under Moyes, and that was last season's basically our most successful spell, wasn't it? And yeah, I'd be more than happy to see that. I know that's how we started. Against Chelsea, which I got pretty confused about on the podcast, but obviously that's how he started against Chelsea, and I know it didn't really work too well, but I think Bowen's great up front. I think he's better than Antonio. If it means you could bring Antonio off the bench late on, brilliant. And then it enables you to have Somerville, I thought was the best player against Chelsea, plus Paqueta in behind. And Kudus on the right wing. Sorry, stifling a yawn there. It's been a very long day at work. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. But one thing I do want to see for Brentford is Souček back in the starting 11.
Yeah, I think that's probably good because
particularly if Alvarez is banned, like you've taught me.
Rodriguez is not. He just looks. That's what I think we were saying the other day, weren't we? Prime sort of La Liga sort of player, doesn't seem to have the athleticism in midfield. Very tidy on the ball, but out of possession looks like he's going to get exposed every time. And to be fair, another player quickly did actually do all right. Antonio, because he was given 25 minutes off the bench, which is exactly how it should be used. And that's when you look against a tired defence, you bring him on, stretches people, he's a physical presence from first whistle, which not been good enough. But coming off the bench, that's the perfect role for him. He looked good in it against last night. Soler, quiet first half, barely touchable. I think I read somewhere the second least amount of touches behind Danny Ings in the first half. Second half, didn't get in the game a little bit more. Again, looks relatively comfortable in possession. I think there's a player in there. Seems to know Lopetegui's system as well from Spain. So I think promising again. How he fits into the midfield, I'm not quite sure, but decent player, I think.
Yeah, happy days, mate. Happy days. Well, look, Alex, maybe you can be the We Are West Ham away games no one wants to go to correspondent. Yeah, James Jones can do the London Stadium ones, and I'll do the slightly more local away games that I don't actually mind, aka Fulham and Brentford, which I'm heading to on Saturday. Just quickly before we move on and hear from Natalie Sawyer, then. Alex, what are you feeling for Brentford? What are your thoughts? Because I've had a very depressing day of a couple of Brentford podcasts I've been on, and the chat I did with Nat earlier on. I've just sort of going, no, I think West Ham will lose, and I think we'll concede at least twice, and I think we'll struggle to score again. So perhaps you can be a little bit more of a voice of positivity, or don't worry about that. What do you actually think?
There's no way we keep a clean sheet, is there? And Buemo's going to score. It's quite obvious.
And Buemo's so going to score. You're so right. Yeah.
You sort of. I've got a feeling it's going to be like a 2-2. If I'm trying to be positive, deep down, I probably think it's going to be a 2-1 to Brentford. But I can maybe 2-2. I mean, Brentford do concede goals, don't they? They look relatively open at the back. Got a couple of injuries as well, so I think there is certainly a chance there for us, but not too confident how we don't seem to show up and know what to expect under Lopetegui so far. It looks good for a little bit, then it looks absolutely terrible. So it depends how we play. No idea. I'll try and say I'll go for 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2. Well, I know what to expect, mate, and it's not good. I seem to be the only one in the world who's sort of comfortable saying that at the moment. But yeah, I think I said earlier on the very best we can hope for is a 2-2 draw. But I mean, with Visser out as well, Johan Visser out for Brentford, that's obviously a big sort of positive for us because he's talented, and Buemo will definitely score. But yeah, I just can't see us. Maybe we can limit them to just one goal, but yeah, I just can't. And they do leak defense. If we win, it's only going to be 2-1. But I just can't see it happening, to be honest. And I think it'll be another one like Fulham. I feel like it'll be one where they have the better, because they've done their business at home. They've got 6 points from home games against Crystal Palace and Southampton. And the games they've lost have all been away against Liverpool, Man City, and Tottenham. And who's looking at those going, oh, he should have got something. And they went ahead in the City and Tottenham games, but for slightly iffy refereeing decisions, which allowed Vicario to stay on the pitch against Tottenham when he handballed outside the area. And then Kovacic, who went through the back of Visser and poleaxed him until the new year. Those. I think it's one of those where West Ham fans underestimate Brentford at their peril, like they were doing before Fulham, and we were so lucky to get away with a point of that. So yeah, fairly bleakly, I'm saying, I also think Brentford will win the game. I don't really know what score. I think I may have done that on the interview I did with Nat Sawyer, which everyone's about to hear next. So I'll keep my mouth shut for now, just in case I did, so I don't say two different score predictions on the same podcast. But I know for a fact that I said we were going to lose. Listen, Alex, it's absolutely brilliant to have you on the podcast. Very much the Carlos Soler of the West Ham podcast. Similar hair, to be fair.
Yeah.
Introduced slowly. And everyone's thinking, yeah, there's a decent little podcaster in there. So yeah, good to have you on, mate. We'll hear from you again very soon. And yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Apologies if the mics were a bit echoey. I went to plug mine in. It appears it's finally given up the ghost. So I'm stuck in a little office at work. But thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that little Liverpool debrief with Alex there. And